All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a pretty chilling scenario, a new kind of warfare. It's called the silent grid, an invisible war where the battle lines, well, they're everywhere, and the weapons, they're just lines of code.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. What if a war could be won, or at least started, not with bombs and soldiers, but with a single, quiet command sent from halfway around the world? That's the idea we're exploring today, and it's unsettling.
So, how does something like this even begin? Well, it's not with a huge explosion. It's with something much, much quieter. A simple click. Picture it. It's just after 2 in the morning. The city's asleep. You've got a nurse doing her rounds in a quiet hospital, a student mindlessly scrolling on their phone. Everything is exactly as it should be. Totally normal. And then, in an instant, everything just stops. The whole city is plunged into complete and total darkness. It's not a slow fade, not a rolling blackout. 1 second there's light, the next there's nothing. So your first thought is probably, okay, just a blackout, happens all the time. But then weird things start happening. Your phone, zero signal. The internet is gone. And here's the real kicker. The backup generators at the hospitals, the ones that are supposed to be foolproof, they don't start. That's when you know this was no accident. To really understand how a whole city could be paralyzed like this, we've got to rewind. We need to go back 6 months because the seeds for this disaster were planted way before the lights ever went out. The scariest part about this whole thing is how patient it was. It all started 6 months earlier with something incredibly boring, a routine software contract. A few months later, that contract provides the cover for a single, harmless-looking email. And then one person, just one, clicks on an attachment they shouldn't have. That's it. That one click let in a digital key that just watched. For weeks, it silently mapped the entire system from the inside. So let's break down how they pulled it off. The attackers didn't need to bust down the door. They just knocked politely and waited to be let in. All it took was one clever email, one little mistake from an employee, and this tiny bit of code, this silent key, just slipped right past security. And it didn't attack anything, not at first. It just learned. It mapped every connection, every backup system, every single weakness, getting ready for the real show. And this is what's so terrifying about this kind of modern malware. It never set off a single alarm, because to the system, it looks like normal activity. It acted like it was supposed to be there, like a ghost in the machine, totally invisible to all the defenses designed to stop it. Okay, so let's jump back to that moment, 2:03 a.m., and see how that quiet little infiltration turned into absolute chaos. Can you imagine the pure panic in that hospital? The power goes out and doctors are screaming for the backups to kick in, but nothing. And the source here makes a really chilling point. The generators weren't broken by the blackout. They had been intentionally, surgically disabled beforehand by the attackers. Zero. That's what everyone was looking at on their phones. And zero signal doesn't just mean no social media. It means zero coordination. Emergency services can't talk to each other. 911 dispatch centers are completely dark. The city's first responders were basically made deaf and blind right when they were needed most. It was this frantic race for the authorities to figure out what was going on. But by the time they realized this wasn't just some massive technical glitch, that it was actually a coordinated attack, well, it was already too late. The attackers were in complete control. But right when the city was bracing for whatever came next, the story takes a really sharp turn, because the real reason for the attack was about to become crystal clear. Just a half hour after the city went dark, the lights flicker back on, phones start to buzz, the internet comes back to life. You can just imagine this massive collective sigh of relief, right? The nightmare is finally over. But it wasn't over. Not really. See, the attack was never actually designed to cause permanent destruction. The real goal was something so much more psychological. It was about demonstrating absolute, unquestionable control. I mean, talk about a power move. This is pure psychological warfare. The attackers sent a message, and not just to that city, but to the entire world. The message was, we own your grid. We can turn your entire country off whenever we feel like it. It's a threat made without a single bullet being fired. And this one single event, this 30-minute blackout, it shows us that the whole idea of conflict has changed. Welcome to the new battlefield. This is what modern warfare looks like. It's a war fought from a keyboard, where a country's own infrastructure, its power, its communication, its water supply, is turned into a weapon against its own citizens. And just think about the defining features of this invisible war. There are no soldiers crossing borders. There's no warning, no bombs, no explosions, and no big headlines until it's already over. It's just the quiet, digital hijacking of a nation's most vital systems. And the story doesn't end when the lights in that city come back on. Not at all. Somewhere out there, in some hidden room, the people who did this are just moving on. A new city pops up on their map. Phase 1 was a success. And now, they're ready for Phase 2. Which, of course, leaves all of us with one final, pretty terrifying question. In a world that is so completely connected, so dependent on these digital systems, this invisible threat isn't just a story. It's a very real possibility. And you just have to wonder, the next time a city goes dark, could it be yours?